under Article 78 of the 1992 Constitution is neither a ceremonial or perfunctory. It is an essential pillar of our democracy, designed to ensure that those called to high office are not only qualified, but are also prepared to serve with integrity, vision, and an unwavering commitment to the national interest. Versus Attorney General, where the Supreme Court clarified that while the phrase prior approval, as used in Article 78 of the 1992 Constitution, is not to be construed as a term of art, it includes substantive parliamentary scrutiny. This committee, therefore, shoulders the dual burden of exercising our oversight role while safeguarding the public interest. On this occasion, colleagues, we will be scrutinizing 3 nominees of admirable distinction. They are my respected colleague, Dr. Cassiel Ato Baah Forson, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, and Honorable John Abdullahi Jenapo. Whilst we congratulate these nominees for in public service and their political credentials, we are also here to say that their mere stature is not enough, and that Parliament would have to meet its duty of prior approval by rigorously scrutinizing all of them. Suffice to state that we, the minority side, whilst observing the protocols and the practice of this House regarding how to treat, must address a procedural misstep that casts a shadow on the integrity of this process. As you may recall, the Secretary to the President purported to have been given the mandate by the President to sign a letter to us. May I refer us to Order 65.1 of our rules, which provides that communication from the President to the House shall be to the Speaker in writing, signed by the President, or in the absence of the President, by the Vice President, or by a minister authorized by the President. So where from this letter from the Secretary to Parliament. So ab initio, President Mohammed's government has breached the standing orders of this House. He failed to write directly to Parliament. He got his secretary to write to us. And even so, that letter from the secretary let me read the letter in full. The letter is a letter that is not referenced. This is coming from Jubilee House. A letter that is not referenced, coming from Jubilee, without any reference. And it's addressed to Right Honorable Speaker, dated the 9th of January, 2025. Nomination of ministers for parliamentary approval. In accordance with Article 78.1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, I hereby, on behalf of His Excellency John Mahama, submit for consideration and approval of Parliament the following nominees for appointment. So, paragraph 1 in itself has 2 major problems. when the president took an oath, he stated his name as John Dramani Mahama. He is not John Mahama. So the secretary got the name of the president wrong. Second, he says that he is doing so on behalf of His Excellency the President. He cannot. The letter should be properly constructed to state that he has been authorized. That is, if we decide to even waive our the 65-1. He cannot just get up and say he is writing on behalf of the president. He doesn't have that mandate to do so. Then the letter did not also comply with the usual salutations that accompany such letters. These are supposed to be very diplomatic letters, and there are standards. Perhaps because the secretary is yet to go to Jubilee House proper, we'll pardon him because these things is supposed to follow due process. And then he ends by saying attached are their curriculum vitae and supporting document for vetting. I trust that Parliament will expedite the approval process in accordance with constitutional requirements. That's it, and he signs. No, yours sincerely, yours faithfully. He only signs, and then instead of proceeding to say that the president takes this opportunity to extend to Right Honorable Speaker his assurances of the highest esteem or consideration, all these things are missing. And we wonder why he had to do such an informal thing. Then he copies a letter to Secretary to Cabinet. There's no Secretary to Cabinet. There's no Cabinet. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I will pardon him and expect that in future he does the thing right. Because this is the Secretary to Cabinet Office, Jubilee House, Accra. I don't know where the Secretary to President is getting this from, unless he says that they've already formed the cabinet, without the knowledge of Parliament, and that they are engaging in some unconstitutionality, which Honorable Ato Forson will describe it as banana republic. We are not a banana republic. We are not a banana republic. So, Secretary to President, Parliament is not even aware of your appointment, because under normal circumstances, the President is supposed to even communicate to Parliament. It is part of the imperatives of governance that he communicate to Parliament. So that is issue one. Issue one. Issue two. And let me be very clear. The minority in Parliament stands ready to support the formation of government within reasonable time. It is the reason why we waived the right to get the public to have a long period of notice. And we did so on the floor of the House. We are ready to support government. However, the cooperation we are promising hinges on the President demonstrating the requisite fortitude and transparency. The leadership of this country cannot afford the luxury of ambiguity. We urge His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, to summon the courage to present the full slate of his ministerial nominees, because this nation deserves we are on break. Adjournment is up to 21st. Members are supposed to go to their constituencies, but we are ready to do this since on the 9th of January, when we had these 3 nominees being ferried to Parliament. The President has since not communicated anything. We wonder whether they are ready to govern. The election results was declared on the 8th of December, on the 9th of December. The President had the benefit of having his victory being communicated to the entire country on the 9th of December. We expected that within the 1 month after the declaration, he would put in place a team. For this thought is unacceptable. Now, post-election violence and national security. Honorable Chair, equally pressing is the wave of violence and attacks that has swept across the nation in the aftermath of December 7th elections.
Mr. Chairman,
And the subsequent transition of power.
Mr. Chairman.
We acknowledge the President's recent call on the
Mr. Chairman,
IGP
please.
to investigate the election-related death.
Honorable Minority Leader, I recognize Honorable Mama Yerga.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I want to extend my most sincere appreciation to the Minority Leader for publicly expressing his commitment to work with us to secure the vetting and appointment of our ministers. Mr. Chairman, we've been on this committee for decades now, at least myself. And for the Minority Leader to use this platform as a press conference to copiously try to denigrate the presidency and to sort of try to direct the presidency as to what to do, I think is not the best. For instance, you cannot be directing the president as to how and when he makes his nominations for ministerial appointment. The president did say that the cabinet will be formed within a short period upon coming into office. But you have decided that it should have been from the date of the declaration of results. I mean, that is not the promise that was made by the president. You can have your opinion on the matter, but please, you can express it outside at the press conference, but at this appointments committee meeting, this is the first day, and let's start it on a good note. And I say that not everything in our standing orders meet constitutional standards. Not everything in our standing orders meet constitutional standards. And the recent case where the Supreme Court struck down some provisions of our standing orders as being inconsistent with the Constitution should serve as a guide. So yes, you've drawn attention to our standing orders and the mode of communication and etc. We will take that on board. But I just want you to know that not everything in our standing orders meets constitutional standards. And as recently as last year, you are all here in this house when the Supreme Court said that some provisions of our standing orders were not consistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Otherwise, I want to again express our appreciation to you for publicly expressing your commitment to work with us to have a smooth processing of ministerial nominees.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ayerga. Honorable Minority Leader, you may conclude.
Thank you. I may continue, please.
Conclude.
Mr. Chairman, with the greatest respect, we will do all we can to cooperate with you. Chairman, words have meanings, and I've given you my assurance. There's a reason why we're here. If members would want to make reference to precedence. I have been on this appointment committee where Honorable Harun Idrisu, the then minority leader, spent 20 minutes in reading his opening remarks. It's there on record. Honorable Dr. Cassiel Ato Baah. Yes, if you don't want me to let me know. Don't start using the words "you may conclude," with the greatest respect. These interjections must stop. We have had situations where the minority leader, as he then was, Honorable Cassiel Ato Baah, the then minority chief whip, when my respected deputy was chairing the committee, Supreme Court nominees, before cameras, they raised issues about even the content of the communication from His Excellency the President. Why would Honorable Ayariga be offended and say I'm denigrating the presidency? It's part of public record. Go and watch it. You were a member of the committee where you questioned the language, the phrases used. You analyze each phrase of the president. It is your turn. Time. Please, it's your turn. Please be patient. Let me finish. Please, let me finish. Chairman, thank you very much.
Honorable Minority Leader, you know the chairman is a man with indomitable spirit. I will not be threatened. You may proceed.
Chairman, we cannot threaten you. And you know I won't threaten you, considering our special relationship.
Chairman, no, this is very important.
I will not threaten you.
I beg you. I beg you. It's very important.
Chairman, do I have the floor?
It's very important.
Thank you very much. We acknowledge the President's recent call on the Inspector General of Police to investigate election-related deaths recorded in 2020 and 2024, a commendable step towards justice and accountability. However, the President has remained conspicuously silent on the escalating attacks on public and civil servants reportedly perpetrated by loyalists of his party, the NDC. These attacks, ostensibly to protect state assets, have reportedly targeted innocent citizens, including judicial officers, causing significant damage to private and public property. A deafening presidential silence in such troubling moments risks being construed as tacit endorsement of criminality. We make this point well aware of his earlier call for calm when he was president-elect. The concerns raised by the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOSA, regarding these attacks cannot be ignored, nor can we overlook the apparent failure of the police to suppress the situation and prosecute offenders. Indeed, the President's 5-member Internal Security Committee has thus far proven either incapable or unwilling to subdue this wave of lawlessness. Let it be clear, these acts of violence are an affront to the rule of law and must be addressed with urgency. Another form of violence that demands immediate and thorough investigation involves the verbal and physical attacks suffered by Electoral Commission officials at the hands of some NDC loyalists, including members of parliament, claiming to protect the ballot. These individuals brazenly obstructed and assaulted election officers who were simply carrying out their lawful duties as returning or presiding officers. Such actions were not only unlawful, but represented a blatant disregard for election-related laws and protocols, undermining the sanctity of our democratic process. Per Section 40 of Representation of the People's Act, there is an unequivocal position in the law. Quote, a person who willfully obstructs or interferes with an election officer in the execution of his duty commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 1 million cedis or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or both. The disturbing videos circulating publicly highlight the grave threat that these actions pose to our democracy. If approved, the nominee for Attorney General must ensure a thorough investigation and accountability for these violations, as no crime in pursuit of political power should go unpunished. Upholding justice and the rule of law requires that all, including NDC MPs, MPP MPs, and all loyalists of political parties who violate the law under the guise of protecting the ballot, face due consequences. This is about safeguarding Ghana's democratic integrity, not political partisanship. Mr. Chair, winning an election must not rest solely on the foundation of valid votes freely and lawfully cast in favor of a candidate, not on the degree of violence employed to intimidate or coerce those tasked with counting and tallying the results. Elections are the ultimate expression of the people's will, and any attempt to subvert this sacred process through intimidation or force undermines the very essence of democracy. Such actions cannot and must not be tolerated in a nation committed to justice, fairness, and the rule of law. Energy sector and the looming power crisis. Turning to the energy sector, it is deeply concerning to hear that the new administration attempting to shift blame for a so-called looming power crisis onto the previous government. Let the record clearly reflect that the outgoing government, despite certain challenges, managed to maintain a stable and reliable power supply. I have said this with utmost confidence and conviction, drawing from my experience and first-hand knowledge as chair of the ECG board. Contrast this with the Mahama administration's notorious doomsday era, which inflicted untold hardship on businesses, homes, and communities, stifling economic growth and eroding public confidence. The people of Ghana have entrusted this government with responsibility to lead, not to lament. We shall not tolerate any attempt to revisit the failures of the past and to excuse inaction with blame-shifting rhetoric. Accordingly, if approved by this House, the Minister Nominee for Energy must return to the People's Chamber with a comprehensive, detailed, and sustainable plan to ensure uninterrupted power supply. What we expect is clear solutions and forward-looking strategies, not a file filled with excuses or blame games. The people of Ghana deserve leadership that prioritizes action over rhetoric, responsibility over deflection, and result over excuses. Another matter requiring urgent attention is the evolving language around campaign promises. The NDC and President Mahama campaigned on a commitment to scrap certain taxes deemed detrimental to the economy. These taxes include the so-called E-levy and the betting tax. Yet we are now hearing what appears to be a shift in tone from scrap to rationalize. Chairman, this is unacceptable. Campaign promises are not conditional. They are commitments that form the foundation of a social contract between leaders and the electorate. To appear to alter that commitment after assuming office is to betray the trust of the people. Let it be known to this House, particularly the minority side, will hold the government accountable to its promises. If the people were promised the abolition of burdensome taxes, that promise must be fulfilled without equivocation or delay. Accordingly, if approved, nominee for finance must be prepared to take decisive and concrete steps to present Parliament with a comprehensive and actionable plan for removal of the said taxes without delay. These measures must be reflected in the President's first budget and economic policy statement to this House, or even before that document is presented. Let it be clear one more time that this House will not entertain any equivocation, delays, or excuses, fully and without hesitation. Now we go to the role of public participation. As we embark on this journey, Ghanaian public is being encouraged to fully participate, get involved, say something, and do something. Appointment committee only serves as a conduit for the collective wisdom and vigilance of the citizenry. We urge members of the public once again, to come forward with memos and any pertinent information regarding the nominees in the public interest. Concluding, Chairman, members, parliamentary press corps, and fellow citizens, the task before us demands clarity of purpose, intellectual rigor, and an unbending commitment to the principles of good governance. And as we begin this vetting process, let us remember that we do not, as representatives of the political parties, but as custodians of the public trust. Let us approach this sacred duty with diligence, integrity, and resolve to ensure that only those who meet the highest standards of competence and character are entrusted with the reins of our nation's governance. May our deliberations be guided by wisdom, fairness, and an unshakable commitment to the good of Ghana. Thank you very much indeed, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minority Leader, for the thesis. Honorable members, we all know that the tone of the communication under reference, comparatively to asking Parliament by way of communication from the President to desist and refrain from submitting a bill passed by the House to the President, I mean, Ghanaians are in to do comparison. Honorable members, it is stated in the case of Boy Fuel versus NTAC that in all these matters, it is the substance that matters, not the form. May I have the pleasure to invite the nominee to take his seat? Honorable members, I call upon the clerk of the committee to administer the oath.
I administer the oath to the nominee.
I, Cassiel Ato Baah Forson,
Swear by the Almighty God
swear by the Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
touching the matter in issue shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Honorable members, as tradition demands, can we proceed to do self-introduction? Starting from the chair, my name is Bernard Ahiafo, Member of Parliament for Akachi South Constituency and the First Deputy Speaker of the 9th Parliament.
Honorable Emmanuel Makofi Boah, Elembele.
Mahama Ayaraga, Boku Central.
Mahama Shaibu, Daboya Mankarabo.
Agnes Namomulate Kroo.
Comfort, do you could you Ada?
Gideon Boako, I represent the people of the Tana North constituency.
Mahamman Tia Abdul Kabir, Wale Wale constituency.
Koko Asante, Etiwa West constituency.
Cheneboa Kodia Foko Manson Kwanta constituency.
Isaac Adongo, Bogatanga Central.
John Darko, Swami.
Dr. Steve Namwa, Nishiaso constituency in the Ashanti region.
Lawrence Sergeant Sam, Himal Wardenshire.
Michael Edu, Oferukroop constituency.
Samuel Kwekapem North constituency. Charles Forson, Tama Central.
Andrew Dachuite, Solatona Calvary.
Titus Bayo, Lambuse constituency.
Jerry Ahmed Shaib, Wejak Bawi.
Al Hassan Kobragansa, Esikmodo Bimbrakwa constituency.
Thomas Ampimnyako, Eso Jaman.
Richard Achampon, Bia East.
Al Hassan Omar, Zabzugu.
Patrick Yabuamo, Kankri Central.
Kwame Abuja, MP for Adaklu.
Patricia Apieje, MP for Asukwa.
Alexander Kwamena Afenyo Markin, MP for Efutu.
Honourable members, we have 11-member committee with 4 coming from the subject matter committees, and the rest are friends to the committee. Honourable members, may I ask the nominee to, you want the premier?
Chairman, thank you. Just to make this point to the nominee, Dr. Forson, the practice of the House has always been that our leaders, because of the peculiar role they play, are treated in a certain way at vetting. Because you are going to hold the public purse, and you are going to be the most important person in this government, the face of all that has to be achieved in terms of fiscal policy, governance, spending, etc. Please bear with your colleagues for some specific matters of policy. I just want to assure you that this right of yours has not been waived, and I would want you to be assured over and over that that is what all leaders since 1997 have gone through. I watched the vetting of G.H. Mensah. I watched that of Alban Kingsford-Smana Babin. I watched that of Honorable Meche Mensah Bonsu. I watched that of Honorable Harun Idrisu, Honorable Benjamin Kumbo. So yours will not be an exception, as in you being denying that. But there are some policy issues that the Ghanaian public will know because of the portfolio you are going to occupy. So please indulge us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. May we proceed? Nominee, may you tell us about yourself?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman here, Ato Forson. I represent the good people of Ejumakon and Yan Esiam. In fact, I have represented them since 2009. So this is my 17th year in representing my constituents. I'm a third born from a family of my mother's side of 7. I have a wife, I have 4 children. I'm currently the leader of the majority side of NDC, majority side of Parliament. I'm also serving as the leader of government business as we speak. I have served in the past at the Finance Committee, of which I served
This is hands down one of the best ways of starting off.
Honourable members, the nominees in the chairs, and I will proceed to take a question from the subject matter committee members. I am guided by the minority leader and the ranking member that the first person to start questioning is Koko Asante. By the rules, you are to ask 3 questions, and supplementary question will be subject to the discretion of the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you mean very well for the country, Ghanaians. You've been a deputy minister, so I know you come with a lot of experience. But honorable nominee, I'd like to just indicate that your answers here carry a lot of weight. The investor community, both local and international, are watching and listening to every statement that you make here today. So I just want to, I know that you'll be mindful. Of course, there's no pressure. My first question, Mr. Chairman.
Well, honorable members, when you are asked to ask questions, proceed to ask the question, and let's limit the commentaries.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman.
wait.
I just wanted to congratulate.
Wait. Please put off your mind. Chairman, with the greatest respect. Chairman, it's not just a guide. The member is a new member. We have all practiced at the bar. We know what some of these things do to a person on his or her feet. I beg of you one more time. We are here to cooperate with you. Let's be tolerant. You've been in the minority before. You know what it is. Because this vetting, although it is majority-minority, you know that the work itself is being done by the minority. So please allow members to flow. I beg of you. I want us to have a very decent engagement and be stable in all we're doing. I'm begging you.
Honorable Patrick Baah.
Chairman, thank you very much. I think the finance minister's position, like Honorable Koko rightly said, is very, very important. We know what the leader is made of. But sometimes some foundations ought to be laid to guide the nominee in his answers. Because she said the investor community, both locally and internationally, will be watching and listening. And these are very important partners in our growth program. So if she's going to ask a question that the investor community will be interested in, please, she ought to be given the opportunity to lay some foundation to the question. It doesn't hurt anybody. Thank you.
Honorable Abuja.
Chairman, I just want to appeal to all colleagues, especially the respected minority leader. I've been around this table and I saw when Honorable Ato Forson was the ranking and Honorable Joe Wise was the chair. What I saw was I didn't see Honorable Ato Forson trying to be co-chair. At the moment, so far, people watching might think you are a co-chair. So I'm just appealing to you. Your role in this is very important, without a doubt. It's very important. So for the viewing public, we'll just plead that the two of you should manage such that the interaction between the two of you does not appear as if there's a struggle for power. So I don't have much to say that. We have started well, but if possible, let there be one chair which we all defer to, and then we can make progress. So we're good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honourable members, we had a preliminary meeting, and we agreed on the roadmap.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. Grateful, and it's always good to have you. This is Channel 1 Television. We're bringing you a live coverage of the vetting of ministerial nominees as presented to Parliament by His Excellency the President, John Dramani Mahama. The President has nominated Dr. Cassiel Ato Baah as Finance Minister Designate. He's nominated John Abdullahi Jinapor as Energy Minister Designate, and Dr. Akuritinga Ayene as the Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. The Appointments Committee of Parliament is sitting today, one of its public hearings.
I'm pleading with you too. You and I are practitioners, and we know what some of these comments mean. So please allow the member to put her thought together. She's a new member, her first time in this exercise. She is a woman. Let us allow her to build her confidence. Let us allow her to flow. Let us allow her to lay the necessary foundation upon which the question will be mounted, so that the people watching and listening would appreciate, so that the member, the nominee himself, will also appreciate the question. So I am pleading with you. I would not co-chair with you. I have cooperated with you thus far. I will not stand in your way. We are in this together. But please tolerate the views we express, and we'll do so in utmost respect to you. Please. Thank you very much.
Please proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, you're on record, I believe on January 9th, it was reported by Reuters, that you're going to request additional financing from the IMF. What proposal do you intend to present to the IMF?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, inaccurate reportage. I did not say I am going to request for additional financing from the IMF. Inaccurate. What I said was we could request for additional finances if the need arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
My second question, Honorable Nominee, is Ghana, like many other countries, depends on taxation as one of the major sources of revenue to fund development. As a matter of fact, one of the conditions of the IMF, the current arrangement with the IMF, is to enhance local revenue mobilization. The NDC party promised Ghanaians to scrap a number of taxes. So how do you intend, if you're given the nod as the Minister of Finance, to bridge the revenue gap?
Honorable nominee, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, let me say this is an excellent question. Mr. Chairman, Ghana currently collects approximately 13.8% of GDP in terms of tax revenue, according to the latest data I've cited as part of the transition. It is obvious that we can do better. I've studied the Ghana economy for some time, and I can say without mentioning a word that Ghana has huge potential when it comes to tax revenue mobilization. You don't necessarily have to increase taxes before you rake in revenue. We have the handles. What we need to do is to improve compliance. I will work with the JRA, the tax policy unit of the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that we increase compliance and to raise the revenue as much as we can. In the medium term, it is my vision, when approved, to increase the revenue from 13.8, tax revenue from 13.8% of GDP to about 16 to 18%. That will be able to compare ourselves to our peers. I believe the potentials are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Yes, we have obviously announced that we are going to scrap certain taxes. We'll stick to just that. But it doesn't also mean that we don't care about the revenue. We care about the revenue. And we will have to do more on revenue. But it doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Some of the taxes out there are not bringing in the revenue that it should. For example, the betting tax is bringing in less than 50 million Ghana cedis a year. It's a nuisance tax. Scrapping 50 million Ghana cedis will not mean anything in a way that will affect the economy if you are to adjust, particularly from the expenditure side. I mean, the noise with the betting tax and all does not comprehend the imposition of such a tax. And so I believe that scrapping such a tax will not necessarily affect the forward march of the Ghanaian economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, there have been a lot of macroeconomic policy focus on inflation and exchange rates. Yet the AGI and others in the private sector still complain of high interest rates affecting their businesses. So what are you going to do, given a nod, differently? What are you going to do differently to ensure that our macroeconomic policies are more effective in lowering interest rates for the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you. I think government has a key role to play in this, particularly the fiscal authorities. I say this because if the country is actively in the market borrowing every week, I mean, if you look at the T-bill market today, every single week we roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis. And if you were to roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis week in, week out, the exchange rate, the interest rate will certainly go up. And you should also understand that interest rate sometimes is a function of inflation. And that is why, personally, I believe there is the need for us to immediately work to bring inflation down. And then also work in such a way that we can stabilize inflation, stabilize the exchange rate, and create jobs. Until we do such a thing, certainly the concerns you've raised will still be there. And there's a lot of work we have to do. It starts from the fiscal authorities. We need to cut expenditure. The time is now. We have to cut the waste. And if you cut the waste, certainly you'll be able to, you will not be able to, you will certainly go to the market in a careful way that you will not be borrowing as much as you are borrowing today. And that in itself, you won't crowd out the private sector and you will be bringing down the inflation in a way that interest rate will come down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minority Leader and the ranking member has one follow-up question.
Thank you. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, you said in a response to our respected colleague's question about tax revenue that as a nation, we don't need to necessarily raise revenue through taxes. I mean, then clarify so that I can lay the proper foundation, please.
Mr. Chairman, I did not say that.
I just want you to clarify the point then.
I said we do not necessarily have to raise tax revenue by increasing the tax rate. It doesn't mean the same.
So how do you juxtapose that within the context of your previous position in respect of incentives to the private sector? We've had a private sector policy by the previous government where the whole intent was to free the space for the private sector so that they can invest more, so that they can employ more. You held a position strongly against that incentive, that taxes be necessarily imposed on raw materials that are imported for manufacturing purposes in the country, on equipment that are imported for manufacturing in the country, and all others. How do you juxtapose that?
Mr. Chairman, my position...
Honorable Nominee, before you come in, Honorable Mama Yarga is on point of order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, the nominee did not say that taxes should not be imposed on raw materials. The issue was whether or not taxes already imposed should be received or exempted by this House. So let's communicate accurately.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ayarga. The nominee is capable of answering the question, so proceed to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my position on tax exemptions are well known. I do not intend to hide from that, and I won't hide from that. Mr. Chairman, tax exemption is gradually becoming a major source of tax expenditure in our fiscal framework. Unfortunately, it's not properly targeted, and so you see a situation where we exempt huge volumes of our taxes to particular companies. At the same time, because we are exempting those taxes, we end up increasing these tax rates for so many other people to pay. I believe everyone else must be given the opportunity to pay taxes. My concern, particularly with the one that you are making reference to, I'm sure it has to do with 1D, 1F. It is not transparent enough. I do not believe that certain individuals must be privileged enough to get tax exemptions, whilst others doing the same should not be given the opportunity to get tax exemption. And I have contended in the past that if the government insists on tax exemption for 1D, 1F, they should put it in the law and allow everyone else to benefit from such tax exemption. My main concern, particularly my criticism against the 1D, 1F, has to do with the opaque manner that it has been done in the past. And I still stand by that. If the government, or if this current government still believes that tax exemption 1D, 1F is irrelevant, then obviously my suggestion is put it in the law. let everyone benefit from it, but don't pick and choose and decide who should benefit from such a tax exemption. I think it's wrong, and taxation must be fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last follow-up question.
Chairman, thank you. Leader, I'm making this point as a result of what you just said. Yes, you complain of the lack of transparency. But for the records, and Honorable Yabuama is here, he chaired the committee. You may recall that as a result of those concerns, government at the time was able to meet those concerns to the extent that there was even a waiver on one item, raw materials. In fact, let me say not waiver, the raw materials component was taken out of the whole exemption. And through scrutiny, the request was very much reduced. Would you say that it was purely political because those concerns were addressed? But you still said no.
Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets for saying no. I have no regrets in the sense that when these taxes were introduced, tax exemptions were introduced to us in this House, initially we were called upon to exempt approximately $458 million. Upon my insistence, the Minister of Finance went back to working together with the Minister for Trade and brought it down to about $100 million. So straight away, I saved the nation approximately $400 million, about $358 million, obviously because of my insistence. I still felt there was the need for us to do more. And that $100 million, I could still see things that I disagree. And so, Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets, and I think I did what is right for Ghana and for all of us. Because clearly, it wasn't right for us to grant some of those tax exemptions. I wasn't alone. Colleagues from the Finance Committee agreed with me, and together we fought it. But obviously, I did not champion this alone. Let me also use this platform to pay tribute to Honorable Kweku Kwati. Honorable Kweku Kwati was instrumental in the fight against this tax exemption because he agreed with me that these taxes were certainly not right, and we are working for Ghana. And if we can save $558 million, look at Accra Kumasi Road. We could use that money to fix the Accra Kumasi Road. I think it wasn't necessary for us to approve that tax and those concerns. It's not personal, it's not political, but we did it with the right intention, obviously for God and country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Foko Junibua.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Get closer to your mic.
Honorable Cassiel Ato Baah Forson, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Being nominated as Minister Designate for Finance. I've got a few questions. The first one, can you tell us how you are going to fund the government machinery, given that now there is no appetite for lenders to give money on long term? And the money market segment is already crowded, as you initially alluded to. So how are you going to fund government machinery? Lenders are not ready to give long term. The money market end is already crowded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in the short term, we need to bring confidence back. It's as important as anything. My proposal is for us to immediately introduce a very strong budget, signaling that we are ready to do the heavy liftings. That first budget will indeed send the right signal that Ghana is ready to open our doors for investors to come into the country. I believe if we are to introduce strong measures, particularly from the expenditure side, we will be able to bring inflation down to 8% plus or minus 2. In doing so, we'll be able to reopen the domestic bond market so that we can move away from the over-reliance of the treasury bill market. And so we'll be able to, at a minimum, smoothing the harms that has been created as a result of the domestic debt exchange and the Eurobond. And so we need to bring confidence back. But you know, if you are confronted with a situation where you do not have financing, then there's the need for you to look within. Let's deal with expenditure. Let's cut expenditure. Let us not pretend that there's money out there for us. Just like it has been done in somewhere, we can also do it here. My proposal is, let's look at the expenditure side as well. It shouldn't always be borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. It's time for us to cut the waste. And so I will lead the process to cut the waste. And I will need you, honorable members, to help me cut the waste so that we live and stay within the envelope that we can. But when push comes to shove, obviously, we will work with our development partners. Expenditure, particularly where expenditures that can lead to a proper growth and inclusive growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you, Minister Designate. My second question, you've already given a hint on it, which relates to tax exemptions. Particularly, what I want to hear from you, or what I would expect you to tell this committee, is that the Exemptions Act of 2022, Act 1083, allows the states to take equity stake in entities that apply for tax exemptions. This has never been applied, though the Act allows it. Can you tell this committee that under your regime, you'll be bold enough to apply these aspects of the Act, the entities that come for tax exemptions, you'll be ready to go in for equity stake for this country? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's now great. We've done one, I think last year. Honorable Abina will bear me witness. Honorable Kweku Kwarteng championed it. In fact, I seconded the motion for us to set the tone and allow to implement the Tax Exemption Act, particularly the portion that allows government of Ghana to take equity stake. So we've done once, and as a champion against tax exemptions, and someone who insists that tax exemption must also count, you can count on me that I will do whatever it takes, that when push comes to shove, that we have to grant tax exemption. The country must benefit. You can count on me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So everyone has heard and will be watching. My third question. You know, it is commonly known that we generate really nothing much from the informal sector when it comes to taxes. And if you look at the mid-year budget of 2024, if you look at page 107, you realize that tax from PAYE, if you look at the revised budget, it's about 21.113 billion cedis. Whereas taxes from self-employed for the same period is just about 1.572 billion cedis. So this is a ratio of 13 to 1. So the formal sector, PAYE, revenue from those taxes, is 13 times what we get from all the self-employed. So the gap is so big. What would you do practically to close this gap? A gap of 13 to 1. What would you do practically?
I remember this is a very valid question and very interesting one. I think there's a genuine concern. First, we need to formalize the informal sector. Second, we need to encourage them to formally register with the Revenue Authority. And third, we need to incentivize them. We can learn from Uganda. Uganda has been able to incentivize the informal sector. And as such, they are collecting more taxes from the informal sector than most of sub-Saharan African countries. The question is, what have they done? What Uganda did was to agree through tax education that a percentage of whatever you pay will be used as your pension contribution, even as the informal sector. And so my proposal is, why can't we encourage, or through taxes education, encourage the informal sector by instituting an informal sector pension scheme where you will plow back, let's say 30%. It doesn't mean quote me for 30%. Let's say 30% of whatever you pay as your contribution from your income tax, as your contribution to your from your income tax as your contribution to your to work with all of you to see what we can do to allow the informal sector also to contribute their widow's mite towards the development of our dear country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will then move to the majority side to take questions from the leaders of the Finance Committee. Starting from Honorable Azika Dongo.
Thank you very much, Chairman. First, I want to congratulate my honorable colleague, with whom I have worked closely over the years, but also to thank His Excellency for the privilege to bring a thoroughbred finance person from this House, who was involved in oversight for 6 years and practice in government for another 4 years. When I was invited, I asked myself, what questions are there to ask Honorable Ato Baah Forson? Because we have always been on this side preparing solutions, and I have been in meetings where you and I have led conversations on the way forward to save our country.
Honorable Azika,
all I can say here is
the
that
commentary and go straight to the
I
question.
believe that my colleagues are better placed because I know your quality and what you bring on board. So I have nothing to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Adongo. It's now the turn of Richard Achampong.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, congratulations. I've worked with you since 2013 to date, so I know what you stand for. So, Mr. Chairman, I have only one question for you. Mr. Nominee, how do you plan to address the country's fiscal challenges and ensure debt sustainability? Thank you very much.
Honorable Nominee, your answer.
Mr. Chairman, Ghana's debt management in the past few years has been a major cause of concern. It is sad to know that the country has gone through a very difficult debt exchange, domestic. It's also sad to note that we had to restructure our Eurobonds. In order to not to repeat the past mistakes, we intend to establish an independent debt management office. But in the meantime, we have a major hump that we have to deal with. For example, on the 18th of February, about 6.8 billion Ghana cedis will be due for payment. It is our responsibility to make sure we pay. And the Ministry of Finance, I believe, at this time are preparing to make that payment. My responsibility is to make sure what has happened in the past does not repeat. And so I will do just that. I will work with the Ministry of Finance. I will work with our development partners. And we'll do whatever it takes to avoid a second wave of the crisis we faced in 2022. That I can assure you.
Thank you very much. Any further question? In the absence of any further question, it's now the turn of Honorable Agnes Namomo Latte.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to ask the nominee. I will begin by congratulating the Honorable Leader for this high office being nominated to. I would want to find out from the Honorable Nominee his general vision for revenue mobilization. We've heard bits and pieces, and it's exciting to hear more what your vision is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may proceed to answer the question.
Thank you very much. I worked under Honorable Setepe for 4 years, an astute tax practitioner. I learned under him. He used to meet the revenue authorities once every fortnight. As a result, we saw our revenue improving. What I can assure you is that learning from an Honorable Set and seeing what the way our revenue increased in the shortest possible time, I'll go by the same approach. But aside that, I would dedicate considerable amount of my time towards revenue mobilization. Ministers of Finance often have not paid enough attention to revenue mobilization. I think we should not allow GRA alone to mobilize the revenue. The Ministers of Finance will have a role to play, and I'll play such a role. As I said, I will dedicate considerable amount of my attention towards revenue mobilization and to help improve the revenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
I only want to wish the nominee very well.
Thank you. All members, it's now the turn of Honorable to pose a question to the nominee. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I see you are smiling because I've been in your shoes before. And less than a year ago, I was sitting here and you were sitting there firing questions at me. But I want to use this opportunity to congratulate you. I think you have worked very hard. You put us on our toes when we were in government. And I hope to do the same constructively moving forward. So I wish you well. Just one or two questions, and that will be it, because you are now moving there. You've been there before. You were there as a deputy minister. You are now going as the the finance minister yourself. And I know that a lot of decisions will rest or come from you. I remember that in 2023, during the budget, you mentioned the fact that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama would inherit a very difficult economy. This is in the Parliamentary Hansard, November 21st, 2023. That's the page 35. But at the end of 2024, and during the transition, we shared some economic data with you. You agree with me that we exceeded revenue. Same GRA exceeded revenue by, I think, 400 million to, it was 178 billion or so. They exceeded by 400 million Ghana cedis. The economy grew from 2.9% in 2023 to first half of the year to 5.8% in 2024. We managed to tame inflation down to 23.2% from 23.8% in December. The banking sector assets have also improved from 274 billion in 2023 to about 376 billion in 2024, October. The private sector credits increased by 28.8% from a negative of 7.5% in the same period last year. The primary balance has improved from a deficit to a surplus, and we live in a reserve of 7.7 billion, representing 3.5 months of import cover compared to the 2.7 months of import cover of about 5.9 billion in 2023. And you also talked about the debt restructuring. And in there, we also told you how far we have gotten with that. We have done over 90% of that. We are left with just the private sector, the private bits, and we will be done. So, my dear friend, we've known each other way back in our university days, so I can call him a friend. And so, my dear friend, with this data that you have been presented with, how would you describe the 2024 economy that you have inherited?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Nominee, over to you.
Mr. Chairman, it's early days yet to make a pronouncement on the 2024 outturns. As we speak, there's no outturn for 2024 because whatever you have is preliminary and cannot be said that is outturn. I say this because the transition numbers she's presenting, we did a transition between 9th to about 21st of December. It doesn't give you end-year numbers. Mr. Chairman, I heard her talk about revenue, but revenue alone will not give you a picture of the fiscal deficit. You will need to correspond it with expenditure. I'm also aware that between 30th to 31st, we saw the controller paying out about 18 billion cedis. So 18 billion cedis as against the 400 that you gained. There's a deficit. And so let's wait for end-year numbers. I don't want to speculate. I will wait for end-year numbers, and then I'll present so, if approved, to Parliament. Mr. Chairman, I want to learn from the former president, Sikampedide. I will wait till then before I make those statements, and when the time comes, I will present the true picture of the economy. I don't want to speculate at this point. Let's wait for our turns, and the budget will be read maybe next month, so that we don't use this podium to create speculation. And to add to what the first said, whatever we say here today, whatever we do here today has implication. And it's very sensitive to the market. And so let's be careful not to speculate. I don't want to be pushed to speculate. So
Honorable Nominee, you know the rules. What is the meaning of Sikampedide?
Mr. Chairman, the former president spoke in French and Cree. I don't understand. I'll wait for that.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Mr.
you may
Chairman.
proceed with your next question.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad my friend has confirmed this, because in November 2023, the numbers presented were also provisional, and yet he was able to make a declaration on it. And so in November 23, all that he said were speculation based on what he just told us, that he will not speculate, he rather waits for the outturn. But in November 2023, the numbers based on which he made that statement were also provisional.
Honorable former Minister, is that your next question?
Can I land, Your Excellency? And so, I mean, that's by way of just letting him know that today he's saying that he will wait and not speculate. But in November 2023, these were the same provisional numbers that we gave out, and yet he was able to make a declaration of the true states of the budget. Thank you, my brother. Okay, I move to my second question. And my second question is about resetting Ghana. That's you, yes. Resetting Ghana, and you are in the highest chair to push this agenda. There's a saying that once you first fix your macroeconomy, all other things will fall through. But in your own manifesto, you're saying that you want to shift from over-concentration on the macroeconomy and then prioritize microeconomy. Looking at the current macroeconomic situation, can you say, as you suggested, that it is going to remain the same, that we have fixed the macro such that you can start quickly with your macroeconomy agenda that you gave out in your manifesto? I just want you to share with us what you think you will do to hit the ground running, as you said in your manifesto, moving away from the macroeconomy because you think we have fixed that for you, and then you want to ride on the back of that to continue with your macroeconomy, as you stated in the manifesto.
Thank you very much. You may proceed to answer.
Mr. Chairman, I want to leave this with us. Ghana is not out of the woods yet. In fact, we are still in the woods. And there's a lot more work we have to do, as long as the macro is concerned. But it's important for us to understand that you don't only grow the economy from the macro, you grow the economy also from the micro. You don't necessarily create jobs only from the macro, you create jobs from the micro. You don't stabilize the city only from the micro, you stabilize the city also from the micro. Mr. Chairman, it is obvious that in the last many years, Ghana has overly concentrated on the macroeconomy. I think we need to get back to basics. If you want to fix the city and you fail to deal with the structural challenges you face as a country, you will firefight. In the end, it will be short-term. We need to deal with it. Yes, you can use the macro to deal with the short-term challenges. But what about the micro? Now your oil revenue is dwindling by 30%, for 37%. And you want cities. You have hydrocarbon asset setting, becoming stranded. What are you doing at the micro side to make sure you can pump in the revenue? Bring the oil out and then get enough revenue to support the economy. What are you doing? You have a cocoa industry that is collapsing, moving from 968,000 metric tons per annum to less than 500,000. What are you doing? These are micro issues that we have to deal with. And I believe that ministers of finance should not only be at the ministry just to pay people. That is only a function of the Ministry of Finance. The ministers of finance must and will have to also pay attention to the economic development mandate of the ministry. So I can assure you, what we said in our manifesto, we stand by it. We will have to do something different. And when approved, with your help, I would dedicate once again a considerable amount of my attention towards the development of the microeconomy, the rest sectors of our economy, to help create jobs and stabilize our currency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before your next question, Honorable Baah has a follow-up question. You are done. Okay.
Chairman, thank you. I think the question brought you to the city's stability. And you know the city has depreciated by over 30%, and it's really a matter of great concern. Can you outline some of the steps you take to stabilize the city?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Bank of Ghana alone cannot anchor the Ghana city. The Ministry of Finance will have to play a critical role in anchoring the Ghana city. Mr. Chairman, in the shortest possible time, it is our responsibility to make sure we reduce inflation to 8% plus or minus 2, the target band, in the shortest possible time. Inflation, 8% plus or minus 2. And we'll do that through a careful but strong front-loaded fiscal consolidation agenda, expenditure-based, let me put it this way. And when we're able to do that, it will help the central bank, the monetary authorities, to be able to save reserves and be able to protect the city or come in to intervene when the need arises. But let me also say that all said and done, that is the short-term measure. But in the long term, as a country, we need to sustainably anchor the Ghana city with a number of policies. And then DC, through our manifesto, we've announced a number of them. First is the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board, so that we can use the gold in a way to bring in the forex, the needed forex, to support the city in the very short term. Second, as part of our manifesto, we said we are going to revitalize the palm industry and the cocoa industry. We're already in talks with the World Bank to have that and to make sure that happens. I believe the cocoa and the palm industry will also go a long way to support bringing the needed forex to support. In fact, cocoa had been the mainstay of our economy over the years until recent that the forex is not coming in. We have to do some work, obviously, with the non-traditional export as well. And most importantly for me, we also need to deal with the hydrocarbons that over the last 8 years, Mr. Chairman, the questioner was a former minister for petroleum. You agree with me that in the last 8 years, we've not been able to bring on stream any additional oil field. That is a major concern. It's not that we don't have the oil is there. It's not that we cannot get additional forex to support. But we need to be quick. And these are things that the Ministry of Finance will have to play a very critical role. So we will sustainably anchor the city by ensuring that these major policies are introduced in the shortest possible time to ensure that we can have a stable city. And that's my priority. As I've said, and I've said it so many times, my priority is stable city, low prices, and indeed job creation. That is a priority, and I'll work to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Now, Honorable, your last question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I heard my brother say that they are going to, according to their manifesto, there's going to be a gold board being set up. And we also know that Bank of Ghana is also having this gold reserve program. So is it a new name for an existing program, or Bank of Ghana would have to halt the current gold reserve program to enable you implement the initiatives in your manifesto? This is just by the way. But my last question is this. You mentioned that you to work very well to improve our revenue measures and increase revenue from 13.8% or tax to GDP percent. I just want to let you know by way of information that there's a revenue strategy policy of the ministry that in the medium term, we're going to take Ghana from the current position where we are to about 20%. And I hope that you find time to look at it, and where you need to tweak it a bit, tweak it and make sure it is implemented for all of us to achieve this target that we have set for ourselves, because at the end of the day, it is the revenues that will accrue to Ghana to enable us to what is expected of us. You also mentioned that you're going to cut the waste. But you know, in the public sector, expenditure composes of, that is my question I'm asking, expenditure composes of compensation, goods and services, and capital expenditure. So when you say you're going to cut the waste, you're going to cut the waste. I'm afraid this is what we have. And unless you want to say you want to rationalize expenditure, but if you say you're going to cut the waste, this is the component of it. Meanwhile, in your manifesto, you also mentioned that you are going to roll out this big expenditure and ticket
Honorable
items.
Member, you are answering question. You are not asking question. You are making statements.
I am laying the preamble to answer.
The preamble cannot be a thesis.
Because you will need that, respectfully, Mr. Chairman. What I'm saying is that in your manifesto, you mentioned some big expenditure items. That one, you're going to roll out the 10 billion big push policy for strategic infrastructure, which is on page 24 of your manifesto. You also mentioned that you're going to implement an economic transformation agenda, which is also on page 24 of your manifesto. You mentioned that you're going to implement the Ghana Framework for Industrialization, Revitalization, Support, and Transformation, aka Ghana First, which is also on page 37 of your manifesto, and your Holy Grail, that is the 24-hour economy. So with your position of cutting waste and this huge expenditure ticket items in your manifesto, how do we reconcile the two? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, as for the waste, we'll cut it. And it has to be cut. It has to be cut in such a way that you will not hurt growth and you will not hurt the vulnerable. But we will cut it. Mr. Chairman, I've been in this house for years, 60 years. During this period, I've learned a lot. I learned under Minister Tekpe. I've served on the Finance Committee for 12 years. I've been a ranking member for 6 years. I've been a minority leader for 2 years. Now I'm the majority leader. No one can convince me that our budget does not have waste. We need to cut them. We need to come together, identify them, and cut it. Mr. Chairman, the question is, the waste benefit only a select few, and then its unintended consequences affect all of us as a nation. It ends up breeding fiscal indiscipline, high budget deficit, financing, and in the end, we've seen the outcome. Haircuts. That's the outcome. But let me say that going forward, I will work with your good selves in an open manner, so that together we can work to save our country. Yes, the Honorable Abena made a point that their medium-term revenue strategy is to increase the revenue from its current level to 20%. I hope that is not taxes, because from 13.8 to 20% in the medium term, 2 to 3 years, is very steep, very steep. 13.8% of GDP to 20% is extremely steep. I'm not saying we cannot, but I will work to achieve it. But let me say that 13.8% to 20% is extremely steep. Have you been able to do it in 8 years? The answer is no. And so, unless it is domestic revenue, which include non-tax revenue, but I can assure you, I'll have a look at all of those. And it is in our interest to increase revenue. And we'll do whatever it takes to increase those revenues. Some of the things we will do from the expenditure side is the establishment of an independent value for money office, so that Parliament, working with us, will be able to set up a ceiling of government contracts that must go through independent value for money analysis that will be owned by the state. I think that must be done. And it will be the beginning of cutting the waste. And Honorable Abena, I recognize that you've served at the Ministry of Finance for 8 good years. During this period, I know you worked on expenditure, you worked on revenue. So we'll tap into your wisdom. Help us identify some of the waste you may know about so that we can cut them appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Mahama Shaibu.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairman. And good morning, Honorable Nominee, for a well-deserved nomination. My question has to do with investment, the motivation that you have to give to investor confidence. Over the years, we saw major players in our business industry getting out of the country. Now, in a few weeks, however, I've seen some increase in the money market. You have alluded to it here. The available data indicates that the last window of the government treasury bill was oversubscribed by over 2 billion. Can you tell us what plans and measures you have to boost investor confidence? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, from our conversation, particularly with the private sector, a lot of things came out. Distorted VAT regime, the need for us to simplify our taxes, an unfriendly working environment. I believe we need to listen once again to the investing community and the private sector. And in doing so, we'll work with them to come out with a blueprint that will encourage the private sector to boom. From the bond side, I don't know if you meant by the money market side, the bond side. We need to immediately improve our credit rating faster. How do you improve the credit rating? Your fiscal will play a role, and signaling to them that you are ready to do things differently. I've signaled already
that we will undergo an expenditure-based, strong, front-loaded fiscal consolidation in the shortest possible time, so that together we can send a strong signal to the market, particularly when inflation is reduced. Today, it is very difficult for us to go back to the bond market. But for us to go back there, domestic bond market, I mean, for us to go back there are a few things we need to get it right. Your credit rating and inflation. Inflation today is 23.8, the highest in the last 8 months. And you can see that inflation is inching up. It's inching up by the day. Why has inflation become so stubborn? And I think it's a question we need to ask. And what do we have to do to be able to bring inflation to a target band, A plus or minus 2%? It has to start from the fiscal authorities. And we will start. And we know exactly what we have to do. I need your nod. I need your support. And together, we have a responsibility to do what it takes to fix the economy for the benefit of all of us, particularly the ordinary Ghanaian out there who's struggling. So I'm open, very open, for ideas and to listen to you, not only you, but to the private sector and the entire market, to do whatever you have to do. I'm a very lucky man. I come to this job, apart from my personal experience, but I worked under an astute finance minister, the Honorable Seth, who's like a father to me. I'll reach out anytime, and there are a lot of people. And Honorable Abena is here. Sister, I know. Honorable Amin, the former past minister. And so, let's see. Whatever it takes, we'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Honorable Alhassan Umar.
Thank you, Chairman, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Nominee and Leader, congratulations. I have a question on public debt. And I'll base it on the mid-year review, 2024 mid-year policy review. Paragraph 51 stated that the public debt of Ghana is 742 billion cedis as of today. I want to ask you, how do you plan to manage this huge debt? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, we will manage the public debt. I know it's a matter of concern to most of us, but I can assure you, don't be despaired. We'll do whatever it takes to clear the harms that has been created as a result of the debt restructuring. For example, I've looked at the domestic maturities carefully, and you can see that as a result of the debt restructuring, 2025, this year, we'll have to pay off amortization, debt repayment, not interest, 12.6 billion Ghana cedis, domestic. 2026, you have to repay another 15.7 billion Ghana cedis. 2027, you have to pay 53 billion, and 2028, 48 billion. So you could see the harms that has been created. It's frightening and worrying. You have similar harms that has been created at the Eurobond side. You have billions of dollars. This year already we've paid about $364 million US, and others that are coming up. From next year, you'll be compelled to pay every year $1 billion US from the Eurobond market. From the bilateral official creditors, we don't know yet because they've not signed the MOU and all. I recognize the challenges that we have to face as a country. I'm familiar with it. What I can say is that we need to urgently go back to the drawing board to see what we can refinance and what we cannot refinance, and build buffers to take those ones that we cannot refinance. Currently, we do not have buffers to take off some of this debt as and when they fall due, particularly the external side. No buffers. We have to learn from the past. We have to learn from our mistakes as a country. Rambo Setepe once taught me how to build buffers, and his famous sinking fund, when you have the need to save for during good times to take care of eventualities or during bad times. We did the same, to the extent that when we were leaving office, there was enough buffers for the incoming administration to repay the maturing Eurobond. We did just that. Today, it is obvious that we do not have buffers for the external side. For the domestic side, I don't know of any buffer. But nevertheless, and as I've said, don't be despaired, we will manage this debt. His Excellency, the former president, in his last State of the Nation address said that he did not expect the incoming finance minister to default. I want to use this podium to assure the former president that we will not default. We are very much aware of the harms that has been created. It's not palatable. It's worrying. For example, you need to always, every week in, week out, go into the T-bill market and refinance 111 billion Ghana cedis. Week in, week out. 91 days, you have to refinance 51.6. 182 days, you have to refinance 24.6 billion. And 364 days, you have to refinance 34.9 billion. So together, you are talking of 111 billion Ghana cedis in T-bills that you have to refinance. Or probably rover. Aside the domestic payment debt that I spoke about. But we will implement an effective debt management program, and we will establish an independent debt management office. I think I said it earlier. And this independent debt management office will manage our debt better, and going forward, avoid past mistakes. I think that is very important. I think we don't have to dwell too much with the past. The past is behind us. We have a country to take care of. We have citizens that are struggling. And so we'll focus on the way forward and forward march of our people and do what is right. But be assured, we'll manage the debt better.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from Omar? Honourable members, against the ground rules, I've exercised my discretion as the chairman of the committee to welcome a question from Sami Auku, a friend to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would like to just ask a follow-up question, if it pleases Mr. Chairman, and then I can go on to my substantive. Congratulations, Honourable Nominee.
Mr. Chairman, no. Mr. Chairman, we had an understanding. The leader of the minority made a valid point to allow a question from a non-member of the committee. Against the existing protocol, the chairman agreed for the person to answer, to ask a question. It is not appropriate for that person to now say you want to ask a follow-up question before his substantive question. That is not allowed. So go on and answer your question. That is I think the point I'm making to Chairman. That he is allowed to.
Honourable Samuel Kuma, you do exactly the same.
Mr. Chairman, basically it has to do with...
Chairman, today is Monday morning. Over and over again, I want to assure colleagues in the majority of our fullest cooperation. I am pleading with all of you in the majority. No attempt should be made to intimidate my members, especially the new ones. Honorable Kwame Govins Agboja, you are an experienced legislator. What you just did, you knew the effect of what you just did. When I pinch you guys a bit, then you're all crying, Afenyo. You do that to my members. I've been calm, I'm watching. You try to take the power from the chair, and then when I'm reacting, you say, I'm being like a co-chair. Don't let us go there. We have started a good morning. Tolerate us enough. Be patient. So far, your side have not done the scrutiny. And we understand you are in government. Scrutiny would largely be done by the minority and the opposition. So please, in all humility, if you will be...
Point of order.
Yes, no problem. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Chairman, point of
Vice Chair, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, we'll draw that statement.
Mr. Chairman, I need to finish. I allowed Honorable Govins Agboja to finish.
Chairman, point of order.
Even when I had a point of order, I allowed him to finish. The rule of this game is tolerance. And if you are in government and you still act as though you are in opposition, we would have it. We would have it. If your style will be to be attacking me, you will have it. You would have it.
Point of order. Chairman,
if you think that you are still
on our side, I've been asking very good questions.
I'm on my chairman. You know, you never gave him. Mr. Chairman, you never gave your vice.
He's completely out of order.
Chairman, you never gave the floor. Chairman,
should never allow any friend of this committee to ask questions. Now, the former chairman never allowed any friend to ask a question.
Honorable Baah, you don't have the floor. You don't have the floor.
Chairman, I would accord every member of this committee utmost respect. And our side will continue to treat all of us here with utmost respect. Colleagues, I'm compelled to make this point. We are here in good faith. The minority has cooperated with chairman for us to get here in good faith. The letter got to us in Parliament. An advert was done. We cooperated for the advert to be placed in the paper same day. We were supposed to start this vetting tomorrow. Chairman reached out to me regarding some exigencies. I convinced my side that there is a need for the new government to proceed to form a government. The president needs his team. So let us not obstruct. Let's cooperate. I still have communications asking me, leader, why are you changing from Tuesday to Monday? I am here to do the people's work with my team. This posture of attack on me, colleagues, chairman, with the greatest respect, I will not take it anymore. Even my opening remarks had to receive interjections and points of order. When go and watch Bagbin as minority leader, his opening remarks, let's watch the videos. Let's watch Harun Idrisu. Guys, I don't want a situation where it will be like Markin wants to do this and that. I understand governance. I know governance. And I will support you to form your government. But nobody should make an attempt to use some attacks to frustrate. It won't work. And we are not going to boycott proceedings. As Honorable Govins Agboja once said on the floor, even for him to oppose, he says that there will be chaos. That was his threat. We know what he did to my vice chair. No, it's not payback. I will never do that. I'm not petty. I know what they did to this 67-year-old woman who was then the chair of the appointment committee, our mother. We know what happened. The cameras watched it. So, colleagues, you are now in government. Your duty is tolerance. Tolerance. If you don't want to tolerate us and you don't want to accommodate and you are talking about rules, then we'll also go by the rules strictly. I would end here. Chairman, thank you. And let not,
thank you very much,
allow
Honorable
this to ever happen
Minority Leader.
again.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minority Leader. The presidents are there. We all know that Honorable Joseph Osei Usu, sitting as the chairman of the appointment committee, will never welcome a question from a non-member of the committee. I am using my discretion to allow a non-member to ask a question. I am asking you to ask a question, and to ask a question does not give you room to ask supplementary question before the main question. It's an abuse of the opportunity being given to you. May you proceed and ask your question.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Chairman, wait. No, wait. Chairman, with the greatest respect, I know you are an advocate, you do a lot of cross-examination. You cannot raise your voice on a member. He is a first timer. When he makes a mistake, let's correct him in a manner that would encourage him to enjoy Parliament. He's a new member. Please, with the greatest respect, I know it was not your intention, but knowing you when you get your client in a tight corner, how you deal with them, I beg you, this is not your client. I beg you. Neither is he. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Honourable member, ask your question.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. But first of all, I did not even make a mistake in the first place. Just for the records, I did seek leave.
Go ahead and ask the question,
and
please.
once it wasn't approved, then I proceed to my substantive. That's all, Mr. Chairman. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the clarity. And I will proceed. Honourable Nominee, I would like to refer you to a publication on the 15th of March 2021. And I want to paraphrase because I don't want to miss any word. And I quote, Ghana today, we are complaining that this gambling is destroying our youth. I've read a number of articles on this. I would have thought that the government will come out with a policy to restrict gambling and to even ban it, he said. And this was a quotation attributed to you, Honourable Nominee. I want to ask and proceed on this. Do you still stand by this position of banning gambling and banning betting and all that in its entirety, or now your position has changed? That's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very good question, and it's an opportunity for me to clarify. Mr. Chairman, I was on a show with the Honourable Kojo Opon Nkrumah, and the contest must come out. The Honourable Kojo Opon Nkrumah, at the time Minister for Information, I'm sure, had the responsibility to sell a government policy on betting. And he said, I'm surprised you are not bringing that portion. He said that betting tax is being implemented because it is destroying our youth, and that the government is introducing this betting tax he said the government is introducing this betting tax to deter them, equivalent to a sin tax, so that they will not be sticking the bet. I retorted on a show being hosted by Evans Mensah on Joy FM PM Express. I retorted by saying that will not solve the problem. That will not solve the problem because I've read a number of articles, and the article presupposes or suggests that it is destroying our youth. And so if you want to introduce a tax, you have to first look at the elasticities, and as to whether the elasticities will mean that imposing such a tax will prevent the individual or the people concerned from the staking of the VAT of the betting or not. But I doubt that will And so if you intend doing that, the best option is to ban it and not to introduce a tax. And I said, the tax will not solve the problem. Here we are today. I've been vindicated. Has the tax solved the problem as intended by the government? Big no. I insist that that tax must be abolished. And as Minister of Finance, my first budget, I will abolish the betting tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We don't do that in Parliament. We say here, here.
No, but they are not.
You have to say that.
The next person is Honorable Mama Erga.
No.
Well done.
Before
Yes. Mama Erga.
I thought somebody was my friend until I was given an opportunity to ask a question. And she started heckling me even before I've asked the question. Congratulations, my leader. My real question was to ask you how prepared you are to deal with the multitude of economic challenges confronting Ghana. But after listening to you within these few minutes, I thought it wise to abandon my question. Because even before asking, you have made a case demonstrating your readiness and preparedness to confront the problems of Ghana with greater expertise and finesse than we have seen in the past. So I have a few questions focusing on what my brother and former majority leader and now minority leader raised in his thesis that he read before we started. Oh, it's very beautiful. Thesis.
Honourable Member, continue. Proceed.
Number one, will you abolish the E-levy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my position on the E-levy is well known. I do not intend to run from it. I've written articles against the E-levy. I championed opposition against E-levy. I still stand by them. Mr. Chairman, the E-levy is neither a direct tax, indirect tax, or an excise tax. I don't know how to classify the E-levy as a tax practitioner. Mr. Chairman, it doesn't mean that I do not recognize that the E-levy brings in certain revenue. But the fact remains that the E-levy retards our progress towards a cash-light economy and the fintech. We need to abolish the E-levy. I have said, and I'm on record to have said, that given the opportunity to abolish the E-levy, I want to restate that position, that if approved as part of the first budget, I'll be privileged and I will announce that we will abolish the E-levy as part of our first budget, recognizing my earlier stance and the commitment that His Excellency the President Mahama, said that as part of our 120 days agenda, we will abolish the E-levy. We stand by that, and I can assure you the E-levy will go within the 120 days calendar that we've announced. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chair, my respected colleague and leader tells us that he is aware that
abolishing the E-levy would amount to government losing revenue. How does it that abolishing the E-levy would amount to government losing revenue? How does he make up for the loss in revenue?
Thank you very much. Your answer to the question, please.
Mr. Chairman, it shouldn't always be revenue, revenue, revenue. But why are we not paying attention to expenditure? I think you have a choice of both. Remove the E-levy, obviously. Consider the E-levy holistically and the fact it's going, and look at its impact and assess it appropriately. But my commitment will not change. The E-levy has to go, and it will go immediately.
Thank you very much. He intimated he has a further supplementary question.
Chair, my respected colleague and leader has introduced an important point, and I find a very intelligent one. He says that it's not always about revenue, but expenditure. We are aware of several expenditure lines. These are largely social intervention programs. Is he saying that he's going to do away with some of the social intervention programs to enable him succeed? Or has he been able to identify a particular expenditure line to be able to deal with? Because to say you are going to abolish it on good authority and you are not going to look for another source of revenue to replace it, but you're going to cut on expenditure, it so suggests that you've identified one. Have you been able to identify one?
Mr. Chairman, the quality of expenditure matters. I have said here, and I'm on record to have said that as part of our short-term measures, we will indeed implement a careful but a strong expenditure-based front-loaded fiscal consolidation agenda without hurting growth and the vulnerable. The vulnerable obviously means protecting social protection. Mr. Chairman, I'm a social democrat. My party, the NDC, is a social democratic party. We stand by our ideals. We will not be the ones to hurt the vulnerable. We will protect the vulnerable in our society. Our expenditure cut will be careful, will be done in a way where the vulnerable will be protected. And I've said the quality of expenditure matters. It matters in the sense that expenditure must drive inclusive growth. And so if the expenditure is wasteful and it's not properly targeted and it's not achieving the desired outcome, then you have to relook at it. So we'll be guided. Remember, aside my professional expertise, I'm also a politician. I have won a mandate, and my constituency is a rural constituency. I understand the people of Ghana. I understand the needs of the vulnerable. I understand the dynamics of the political economy. I have monitored Ghana's economy for close to 20 years, 2 decades. I understand its trends, and I can assure you that whatever policy that we will introduce it in such a way that it will drive inclusive growth and help all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The ranking member is really enjoying the answers to the question. We may now move on with Honorable Mahama Ayarga.
Honorable Ato Forson, you have been talking about cutting down on expenditure. You've repeated that several times this morning. Is the reduction in the number of ministers and the reduction in the number of existing ministries, is that part of the measures being taken at the highest levels to cut down on expenditure?
Mr. Chairman, the size of government matter. It feeds into the expenditure framework. Reducing government ministries from 30 to 23 gives you a savings of 7. 7 bureaucratic agencies. 7 bureaucratic agencies comes with its own cost. Therefore, it is part of the envelope. So straight away you can see the envelope. Today, the Ministry of Finance will have to populate the budget as approved by Parliament for expenditure in advance of appropriations. It has, as part of it, 30 ministries. Immediately they have to realign to 23. So straight away, you have cost centers of 27 that you have to eliminate. Some are fixed, but they are variable costs that you immediately cut. And so you can understand that as part of the government's policy to cut down expenditure, we have already begun. And I'm sure in the next budget, you'll be very impressed with us, what some of the things we'll do. I don't want to preempt it. I'm not a minister yet. I'll count on you to approve me very fast so that I can start the work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last question.
My last question is, do you have any doubts about any of our commitments to abolish any of the taxes? Are we reneging? Is there any conversation in the circles of government? Is there any doubt in our mind about any of the taxes that we said we will abolish?
Mr. Chairman, certainly no.
Thank you very much. I will take a question from Honorable Ampinyako.
Thank you, Chairman, and congratulations to Honorable Dr. Ato Forson. But I am impressed with your responses so far, a clear indication that you are ready to help reset Ghana. But I have a quick question. The previous government, in the process of introducing E-levy, abolished road tolls. As you have committed to remove E-levy, would you consider to bring back road toll collections? And what is your take on property rate collections as well? Because they attempted to centralize it and they reversed it with the previous government attempted centralization of property rate collections, and they reversed it with the explanation that there were some challenges. What is your take on road toll and property rate?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, the previous government indeed removed the road toll. But getting to the end, they signaled that road toll is coming back. Mr. Chairman, they submitted to Parliament, it was not late, a concession agreement with the company to reintroduce the road tolls. I have a copy. Mr. Chairman, the NDC indicated from day one that the road toll will come back. We are not running away from it. In fact, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, at the time, the minority leader, said that the NDC promises to bring back the road toll. The Hansard will bear us out. We have not run away from that fact. So I can assure you, we are a party that sticks to our promises. And whatever we have promised to do, we'll do just that. If the road toll is a way to raise revenue, we'll raise the revenue. And the road toll, if you use the road, you have to pay a toll. And it's all over the world. Ghana won't be the first country, won't be the last one. You have to contribute towards the road maintenance. And so the only thing is we have to collect the revenue effectively. and efficiently so that we can plow it towards the maintenance of those roads. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will take a question from Gideon Buako. Dr. Gideon Buako.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Nominee per series affiliated to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology Business School. In fact, he signed up for the program at the time I was seconded to the office of the Vice President. So as a lecturer of the business school, I think it is appropriate that on behalf of the KNUST Business School, I congratulate you. And I can see my colleague, Professor Jonathan Annan, sitting behind you to show moral support. Mr. Honorable Nominee, on 3rd April 2019, Ghana's economic management team held a public lecture at the College of Physicians and Surgeons. And this lecture was led by the former Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. The lecture was themed, Our Progress, Our Status, Our Future. A day after that lecture, there was another public lecture organized by the Coalition for Restoration that is affiliated to your party on 4th April 2019, and you spoke at that public lecture, which was themed The State of the Ghanaian Economy, Myths and Truths. In your presentation, you put out some data, among which I found a highly misleading data that you put out. And to quote you verbatim, you said, and I quote, Mr. Chairman, the official data from the Ministry of Finance indicates clearly that overall deficit by end year 2016 was 7.8% of GDP, in brackets, 6.1% of new rebased GDP. But the figure you put out, Honorable Nominee, was utterly untrue. And to back this with evidence, if you read the budget statements of 2017, the mid-year budget statement of 2018, and the mid-year budget statement of 2019, the full budget, you will see that page 7, paragraph 14 of the 2017 mid-year budget put that figure at 9.3% of GDP, and not what you quoted. Again, page 12, paragraph 45 of the 2018 mid-year budget put the figure again at 9.3%, and not what you quoted. Lastly, page 3, paragraph 14 of the 2019 full budget statement puts the figure at 9.3%, and not what you quoted. Where did you get that figure you quoted from? Would you consider apologizing to the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and Honorable Nominee, former Vice President?
Honorable Dr. Gideon Buako, it doesn't lie in your mouth to ask the nominee to consider apologizing. So withdraw that from your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submit your guidance on this. Honorable Nominee, my question is, you know the enviable office of the Finance Minister that potentially you're going to occupy should come with utmost integrity, honesty, backed by meticulousness, profundity, and analytical precision. In your capacity as minority spokesperson, you misled the public with wrong public data. Can you assure this committee that you are not going to sleep on the job and make some of these data presentational errors that we have even experienced in the past, for which Ghana was charged for some misreporting by the IMF? That's my question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for this.
Before you answer the question, the questioner I will want you to consider withdrawing, going to the office with a degree of honesty, integrity. I mean, it's against our rules. So expunge that from your question. Then I can ask the nominee to answer the
Mr. Chairman,
question.
if you can guide me.
I think what the chairman is saying is that the aspect where you delved into his personality. So just say that that bid is deemed withdrawn. Then we make...
Mr. Chairman, duly acknowledged.
Thank you very much. Nominee, you may proceed to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Gideon Boakon has got it very wrong. Very wrong in the sense that he's not privy to the IMF data. And I want to refer him to the IMF staff report for 2018 and 2019. And if he can check now, I want to take him into it. Mr. Chairman, he's wrong. In fact, the very 7.8 fiscal deficit for 2016 was reported by the IMF. And Mr. Chairman, the IMF subsequently even revised the fiscal deficit for 2016 down on cash basis to 6.3%. 6.3%. Mr. Chairman, you know me in this house. I don't just speak. I speak with data. I research before I speak. I use data from independent sources. Ghana was in an IMF program at the time. 2017, the Ministry of Finance presented a budget. They quoted the numbers he's making reference to. I challenged the numbers. In fact, my former boss also challenged the numbers because I was a deputy minister at the time. 2018, they repeated the same inaccurate numbers, and it had become the order of the day. Mr. Chairman,
point of order.
I have a responsibility.
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
I have a responsibility to defend our legacy. And I had a responsibility to defend our legacy. And in defending the legacy, I actually decided to use data from independent sources, the International Monetary Fund. And in doing so, the IMF presented this data. Mr. Chairman, I'll give you this. This is a dashboard I asked the Ministry of Finance to tabulate for me. Ministry of Finance's own data. I did not compute this data. It's coming from Ministry of Finance. According to the same Ministry of Finance, the fiscal deficit, cash basis for 2016, was 6.3% of GDP. Mr. Chairman, this is not coming from me. So the 7.8%, I was extremely charitable, extremely charitable, because I've weighed off 1.5% of GDP. Because that was what the Ministry of Finance has reported. They gave it to me this morning when I asked for it. This is coming from the Ministry of Finance. So there's no basis for me to apologize. I stated the fact. I stated what is coming from the IMF, what I had earlier on objected to, and I've asked the government to consider relook at the numbers again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nominee. We indicated earlier that he doesn't have the power to ask any nominee to apologize. He doesn't lie in his mouth, and it was withdrawn. So I will move to the next questioner, member of the committee, Honorable.
Mr. Chairman, I will seek your leave for a point of order. My brother and
you are taking the point of order on who? Which matter are you taking the point of order on?
On the matter he just put on the table that consistently Ministry of Finance presented wrong data.
And what order are you coming?
Mr. Chairman, I have to put this on record that he's saying that consistently for 2 years, Ministry of Finance presented wrong data. You were a member of parliament at that time. We were all members of parliament at that time. And then he comes back to tell us that today he's gone back to that same Ministry of Finance to get accurate data because he's the one going to, lead or chair, lead the ministry. I don't think it is proper. I don't think this is how we should treat ourselves. If for one reason you have found out another data that is maybe contrary to what we presented, definitely there will be explanations. Definitely there will be, reasons why it is so. But to say that consistently we presented wrong data to Parliament consistently for 2 years, Mr. Chairman, this is Ghana. And like my neighbor in Etiwa West said, whatever we say here, the international investors are listening and watching, and to have repercussions on this economy. So let's manage what we say. We are not saying don't speak the truth, but you cannot say that consistently for 2 years, Ministry of Finance presented a wrong data here. Mr. Chairman, I expect you to do something about it. Thank you very much.
I will not allow the nominee to answer. That is not a question. It's a commentary. May we proceed? Honorable
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, you have to do something about it because you were a member of parliament at that time, and they are saying that we, members of parliament, watched while wrong data was being presented.
Honorable Patrick Honorable Abna Useasare, you are out of order.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, you have to do something.
Put your microphone off. Honorable Patrick Yabuama, it's now your turn.
Chairman, you have female members on this committee, and I believe you must protect the ladies on the committee, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Abna is your colleague and a female member on the committee, so we must do some. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to ask some questions. Let me use the opportunity to congratulate my good friend, Honorable Cassiel Ato Baah Forson, for his nomination as Finance Minister Designate. Sometime in 2022, you alluded to the fact that the central bank had printed over 22 billion cedis ostensibly to inject into the economy some funds. I would want to find out from you if you still stand by that comment or those comments, given the fact that the central bank came out with a statement explaining what they did, which was in line with the fund program and also some borrowing from the secondary market. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have not changed my position. Ghana was not in an IMF program in 2022, and it cannot be in line with the IMF program.
I didn't get an answer correctly from my good friend.
Honorable nominee, can you repeat your answer?
Mr. Chairman, he said what the central bank did was in line with the IMF program. Ghana was not in an IMF program, and I stand my position that the central bank indeed engaged in monetary financing, in other words known as money printing.
Much for repeating your answer. Your second question.
Ato, I know Honorable Ato Forson. Sorry for calling you Ato. I'm used to calling you Ato. You are someone who loves to read a debt report. And you've always engaged me on the debt report from the Ministry of Finance. May I know your thoughts on the debt report, particularly 2022? Reading from the previous debt report, the public debt, as it stands now, increases with the depreciation of the cedi. About 90% of the increase in our external debt was due to the cedi's depreciation. which is mainly outside the purview of the central bank or the Ministry of Finance, what are you going to do differently to ensure that exchange rate depreciation do not have a very negative effect on our balance of payments? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Nominee, your answer to the question.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, yes, this House always considers the debt report. The Finance Committee always considers the debt report. We started raising the red flags and asked the Minister to act far back 2020. In fact, we deepened our call in 2021 and asked the government to act immediately. Our major concern at the time had to do with the exclusion of certain lines. ESLA bond, Sino-Hydro loan, Dache bond, and many others. And we said, what they are doing is wrong. And that as long as you are going to use government revenue, public revenue to repay this debt or service the debt, you should count it as part of the debt. So the debt that they were reporting excludes some of this debt that I've mentioned. We were ignored. But in the end, when Ghana went into the IMF program, we were compelled to add Sino-Hydro loan to the public debt. We were compelled to add ESLA bond to the public debt. We were compelled once again to add Dache bond to the public debt. So we came back to the basics. We in the NDC felt vindicated, but we don't seek that. We think it provides a very excellent lesson for all of us in the way we report our debt. Fast forward, that is why the NDC, we've pledged in our manifesto to establish an independent debt management office so that we can report our debt in a very transparent manner to avoid past mistakes and to move on. The exchange rate issues you've mentioned are very genuine and very germane. Yes, as long as you borrow in another country's currency, foreign currency, when the cedi depreciate as against those currencies, because you express it as, in your currency, it will have an impact, and so your debt will be going up. But remember, it's also your responsibility to manage the currency, and it's not someone else's responsibility. And Central Bank, the Bank of Ghana, has a role to play in the management. In fact, they have to manage the currency and stabilize the currency. But the Ministry of Finance has a role to play. So the behavior of the fiscal authorities will have some positive or negative transmissions at the monetary side. And so together, we have to do it. When approved as minister, I will work or coordinate effectively with the central bank for us to be able to anchor the cedi together, so that between the Ministry of Finance and the central bank, we can anchor the currency. That must be done. I strongly also believe that monetary finance must be eliminated. We've done it in the past in 2016, and monetary financing has a role to play in the inflation that we saw in 2016 and the cedi that we saw depreciating to a level that you are talking about. So we need to work together and find a way to deal with the concerns that we've raised. I'm committed to that, and we'll work to do that.
Thank you. Minister, there's just a question to the chairman. I know there are some cocoa farmers in and around Ejumako and Nesiam. Asin area, Denchira, Ashanti, Western North. They are all listening to you. And they would want to know from you as Minister of Finance, because under the previous administration, Cocoa Board was moved from the Ministry of Finance to Ministry of Agric. People had issues with it. They want to know from you, from a cocoa growing area, whether you are immediately going to increase, as promised, the producer price of cocoa to 6,000 Ghana cedis per bag, as promised. Thank you very much, and I wish you the very best, Ato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, as we speak, the chairman of the Producer Price Review Committee is the Minister for Agriculture and not the Minister for Finance. The government changed the position. In fact, President Akufo-Addo brought a bill to the House for us to consider and change it. Until that changes, I will not be the chair of the Producer Price Review Committee for me to commit. But what I can say is that, you know my passion with cocoa. I do not have a cocoa farm myself, but I recognize the work of the cocoa farmer. And I have fondly spoken about cocoa, and everyone knows that. I think the cocoa farmer must be prioritized. One of the reasons why our cocoa is going down is that we are not paying the cocoa farmer a fair price. As a result, there are no incentives for the cocoa farmer to cultivate cocoa. And our volumes are dwindling from almost 1 million metric ton to 400 and something thousand metric ton. Today, we are second largest producer of cocoa. Ecuador is fast approaching, and if care is not taken, Ecuador will overtake us. Cocoa has supported Ghana's economy over the years. I think it's about time that we pay attention to the cocoa sector by giving fair price to the cocoa farmer and revamp the industry. As minister, obviously, as Minister of Finance, when approved, I will work with the Ghana Cocoa Board as a rare sector active player to revitalize the cocoa sector, but at the same time paying attention to what the cocoa farmer gets, because we need to incentivize them, we need to encourage them for them to be able to cultivate the cocoa, and for them to be able to also be encouraged to stay within the sector. Remember, the cocoa industry is more or less the largest single employer of Ghana's economy. And it cuts across how many regions in our country. Almost half of this country produces cocoa. So don't overlook cocoa, and we will not overlook cocoa.
Minister,
thank you very much.
Just to give you some information,
yes.
that committee is co-chaired by the Minister of Finance and the Minister. So you have a voice. Right from the word go, you have a voice.
So that even empowers me stronger.
Thank you very much.
And my passion will always come to play.
Thank you. It's now the turn of Honorable Governor Kwame Abuja, the Majority Chief Whip.
Chairman, thank you. I also want to take the opportunity to congratulate my boss, the Majority Leader, Honorable Cassiel Ato Baah Forson. Working with you as your whip, I have no doubt you are cut for this job. You are a personality determined to achieve results, and you are selfless, and you love your country. I believe with you in the chair, you will be able to drive, on behalf of the President, the economic reset that we all desire as a people of this country. Chair, I have an observation. I haven't served long enough on this committee, but I have this to say. This is the longest vetting of a leader since I entered Parliament. Though my very good friend, the respected Minority Leader, made the point that there's a convention that leaders are vetted differently, and I was here when even the Deputy Majority Whip at the time, Honorable Lydia Alassane, was vetted. That rule even applied to her as a Deputy Whip. We are approaching 3 hours of vetting. There's a perception that these things only apply when our colleague NPP are at the receiving end, i.e., when they need to benefit, these rules apply. And we on the NDC side follow through. Let this just be on the record that one day, if a leader gets vetted 3 hours, 4 hours, it wouldn't be that, oh, because it's NPP or NDC, but you have actually set the precedence. Let me go to another observation. My very respected leader, I know he knows his numbers, and he actually goes not only read Hansards, but actually watch videos of proceedings in Parliament. And we all learn from him sometimes. Though I came to Parliament with him, his premium on details are correct. In his, what I call the press, using this platform for a press conference initially, he spoke about a lot of things. One of the important things he spoke about was the communication from His Excellency the President to this House, where he suggested that Order 65.1 says that that type of letter should be signed by the President, Vice President, or a minister designated by the President. And he took issues with Dr. Kalisu signing that letter. I have here in my hands a letter dated 21st January 2021. And this letter communicates President Akufo-Addo's nominees for ministerial and regional ministerial designate. And guess what? The person who signed this letter is not even the President's Executive Secretary, but somebody called Honorable Eugene Ahin, Acting Director of Communication, Office of the President. So, whilst I agree with you that, yes, address to the Speaker, the thing says it's all here. I'll hand it over to you. So what I'm saying is that I agree with him that Order 65.1 should be adhered to. But the point is that this is nothing new in this House. Indeed, the Executive Secretary of the President has communicated to this House appointing people to authority under that same thing. So just for the records. Honorable Dr. Ato Forson, I have just one question for you. And this question is regarding a payment of $53 million towards a supposed cathedral project, which was a commitment of the former president to his God. As we speak, the $53 million has been paid. The result is a big hole not far from here. We also know that the payment was made through the Ministry of Finance. My question to you is, having knowledge that the $53 million could have paid for 3 completed Agenda 111 district hospitals, could have paid for 1,226 unit classroom blocks, could have paid for 1,050 chip compounds, could have paid at least 299,000 teachers, and actually could have bought 9,000 cutlasses for farmers. Will you promise that when you are approved by this House and then subsequently by the House, you would set up an investigation as to whether this payment was legitimate, and if possible, retrieve this money so that we can buy the 9,000 cutlasses for the farmers, actually build 1,050 chip compounds and 1,200 6-unit classroom blocks. Hopefully, Adaklu will get some of the 6-unit classroom blocks because we still have schools under trade. Will you make a commitment to make sure that this $53 million, which many Ghanaians believe was a waste, would become something that can benefit the ordinary people of this country?
Thank you very much. Before you proceed to answer the question, let me reiterate the fact that regarding the form of the communication to Parliament, I indicated quoting a decided case to support. As a matter of fact, it's not about the form but the substance. So let's leave it there. You may proceed to provide an answer to the question. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, this takes me back to what I started earlier, the quality of expenditure matter. You see, and I've said earlier on that there was the need for us to cut the waste. This is one of the wastes that I referred to. And learning from past mistakes, we don't need to repeat this. As to whether we investigate it or not, the Ministry of Finance do not have investigative power. It is the government. And based on the government agenda to investigate. I attend the office of the Attorney General and the newly established ORA. So, Mr. Chairman, for me, let me put it this way. There are bitter lessons we have to learn from some of these expenditures and what it has done to all of us as a country and what we have gone through together, because in the end, we ended up borrowing, and we borrowed into an unsustainable pit to the extent that we had to give domestic bondholders haircuts, including Euro bondholders. So we have to learn from it. And I've said that we need to identify some of these kind of expenditures. You are now aware of this one, but maybe there are a lot more that we are not aware of. Can we identify some of them? Can we pledge together, the political class, the governing class, not to continue some of these things and allow the private sector to deal with some of these things concerned? So I'll leave that here and urge you that I will work with yourselves to identify some of these wasteful expenditures and cut them appropriately. Let's cut the waste together.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. Chairman, my respected colleague Kwame Agboja made reference to an earlier observation made by me in respect of the communication from the Secretary to the President to the House. He did suggest that there is precedence and that in January 2021, specifically 21st of January 2021, a communication from the Presidency was signed by Eugene Ahin, Acting Director of Communication, informing the Speaker of some nominees, and that to him is a precedence. I humbly beg to disagree with him on his own evidence. The letter he referred to is rather a press release, not a letter to the Speaker. And for his own record, is titled "For Immediate Release, President Akufo-Addo's nominees for ministerial and regional ministers designate." The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has submitted to Parliament for prior approval through the Speaker, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, the names of the following persons for appointments as ministers in his new government. So, just for the record, my respected colleague, please, my respected colleague, Eugene Ahin has never written on behalf of the President to the Speaker. This is a press release. And if you want me to read the conclusion, I will. President Akufo-Addo is hopeful that Parliament will see to the prompt approval of his nominees so that they can assist in the delivery of his mandate for a second term in office. This is the press release. And in fact, our colleague, Ufosu Kwachi, as the acting spokesperson for the President, has actually also released a statement in respect of the nominees that got to Parliament. So I'm saying that, get the fact right, Eugene Ahin, for records, never wrote to Parliament. And that was not what I was referring to. I referred to the letter from the Secretary. In any event, I relied on the rules of the House. So please, Eugene never wrote to us, and I did not mislead the public, neither did I quote the wrong law, or neither was I suggesting that there was no such precedent and that this is something that, I got wrong. I couldn't have gotten it wrong, with respect, sir.
Yes, the point well noted. Do you have a further question?
Yes, I think I was just reinforcing the point he made because the orders are clear that such communication should be signed by the President, the Vice President, and I agree with you. So I'm just saying that because I know that the President's executive secretary have communicated to this House on a number of occasions. But as the chair directed, we'll leave it there. Leader, the people of Adaklu have heard a lot about the debt of this country. We have heard you say sometimes if we were to share the debt, my Auntie Peace, would have to pay 20,000 Ghana cedi as part of our debt. But so far, I've not heard you speak about, in your view, going through the transition, how much does this country owe now? What was it in 2016? And what is it now? And how much my auntie is supposed to pay? If we're asked to pay that money, everybody is supposed to pay today.
Thank you very much for your question. How much do we owe now? What was it in 2016?
Mr. Chairman,
please go ahead with your answer.
Mr. Chairman, the NDR debt numbers has not been finalized. And I would wish to wait for us to finalize NDR numbers. And then as part of the budget, we can announce same. And maybe His Excellency the President, during his State of the Nation address, will have to announce those accurate data. For now, I will urge that we wait until they finalize NDR numbers because the fiscal fits into the debt, and so we'll be able to know exactly what is Ghana's public debt. I don't want to say something and change my position tomorrow, so I beg that you leave that to the NDR numbers. Thank you.
Honorable, it's now the turn of the Deputy Leader, Honorable Patricia Apiaje.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Leader, that's my favorite leader. Having been here for all this while, I've been wondering how many sins this committee has committed to fast-track your vetting today. I've been wondering how many sins we have committed, and I've been wondering whether Ghana, Banana Republic, has been transported back to Ghana. So that's my first question.
Should I treat it as a comment or a question to the nominee?
I've been wondering, and I need an answer from my leader.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I remember enumerating the number of sins she's committed as the vice chair of our appointment committee. Mr. Chairman, I'm not a member of the appointment committee. I cannot be too sure the sins they have committed. That one is between you and your God.
I think what I would, you mean you don't know the sins we've committed as a committee for fast-tracking your vetting today? A vetting that was supposed to be held tomorrow and is being held today? And we were even expecting it to be held in the next 2 weeks. Anyway, I like your answer. Honorable Leader, on behalf of the cocoa farmers across the country and on my own behalf, I'd like to congratulate you for your appointment as the Minister Designate for Finance. Honorable Leader, the current cocoa price, producer price of cocoa, is 49,600 per ton. That is 3,100 for 64 kg bag. Over the past 1 year.
Are you talking in terms of dollars or cedis? I want to be clear.
Over the past 1 year, you've been advocating for higher producer price for our cocoa farmers. And you know they are very happy that, given the nod, you are going to be on the seat. Should you get the nod from this House, what reasonable and fair producer price must our cocoa farmers expect from the new administration? And when will this review take place? I would like to mention specifically the figure you mentioned, 6,000 per bag of cocoa. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, without a doubt, I'm a biggest advocate for cocoa farmers. I've done that in the last 8 years, and I've fought for the cocoa farmer, year in, year out. I will not change that. I will work to improve the lot of the cocoa farmer, recognizing their contribution to the economy, recognizing that the cocoa sector has been the mainstay of Ghana's economy for years. My concern, and I've always raised these concerns, has to do with the fact that the sector is collapsing and dwindling at a very fast rate, in fact, at an exponential rate. I think we need to do something, including the farm gate price and revamping the sector itself. I've said that the ministry, the Ghana Cocoa Board is currently under the Ministry of Agriculture. It is not under the Ministry of Finance, unless there's a policy change. But let me speak to what is before us now. It is not under the Ministry of Finance. So I do not have the sole power, prerogative, to announce cocoa price today. But obviously, as a minister, I'll be the champion for cocoa farmers, and I'll make sure that they get a fair price. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further question?
Yes, this will be a follow-up because I remember vividly on the floor of Parliament, the minister indicated that he is going to advocate for 6,000 a bag for cocoa farmers. And I'm surprised that you are now saying that it doesn't lie within your sole prerogative to do that. You were emphatic to do that. So should we demand that from you, that farmers are listening?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I don't think this is one of the sins that I enumerated, but I said I will advocate, and I've said that I will not change my position. I can certainly change.
Thank you very much. Another question, please.
Right. Thank you very much. Honorable Member, with the growing population of young people entering the workforce each year, what is your plan to address youth unemployment? And may I continue by asking if you could outline any specific programs to support entrepreneurship, skills training, or expansion of industries that have high job creation potential? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any program to support entrepreneurship
Chairman,
and innovation?
As a government, our job creation measures have been announced as part of our manifesto. As a minister, my responsibility is to mobilize the needed resources. In consultation with Cabinet, I will have to allocate them effectively to the sectors that will create employment and for them to be able to create jobs. When we talk about jobs, Mr. Chairman, and what you said, we've announced our 24-hour economy, and I strongly believe that Ghana has the huge potential of increasing our GDP with the same resources and the same human resource. That in itself will create enough jobs. Jobs that will be able to cater for our teeming youth. But in the meantime, what you said about skill training and all, His Excellency the President, President Mahama, and the manifesto of the NDC has not minced words on this. We are going to set up a structure to train skills, give them access to the required training, and give them the tools for them to be able to learn the trade. I'll fund it as a minister, if approved, or when approved, in such a way that the skills that we lack as a country, we can train them locally and give them employment. Today, most of us, anytime you want to get good artisans, you go to our neighboring countries and bring them in. But we have the youth here. Why don't we give them the training? I think we need to revisit that. And I'll work with the sector ministers and be able to allocate the needed resources to them. And as I've said, that is my role as a minister responsible for finance. So we'll allocate the revenue, the resources to them for them to be able to. Then I will mobilize the resources and be able to allocate them effectively and efficiently.
Thank you very much.
Any further question?
Yes, I'm very much interested in your answer to my last question. But I'm looking at the development of women, and I'm highly interested in your manifesto promise to set up a women development bank, and then free tertiary education. And I know all these things are going to be of a prime benefit for our ladies or our women in the country, with a proposed reduction in taxes. Is fiscal consolidation a priority for the government in the near term, taking into account government's manifesto? Thank you.
Honourable Nominee.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, fiscal consolidation is not only a priority, but we will front load it. We will front load it carefully. At the same time, we'll signal to the investor community strongly that fiscal consolidation is not only a priority, but we'll front load it in a way, at the same time not ignoring the impact on growth and protecting the vulnerable. So that, I can assure you, it is a priority. We have an option to rationalize some of these expenditures. And so it's a matter of switching and rationalizing. So it doesn't mean the flagship we've announced as part of our manifesto does not mean we are going to increase expenditure. That is not what it means. It's a priority of government, and we'll do just that.
Thank you for your answer. Any more questions?
Yes, I will have my last contribution.
Question or contribution?
Question, a follow-up question to the statement made or the question put in by Dr. Boakum. Honorable, you agree that data for end of year usually is validated on the first quarter of the ensuing year. So all data presented during the budget reading in November are provisional. How then do you say that data presented in 2017 and 2018, knowing that they are provisional, you term it as inaccurate? Thank you.
Thank you very much. What did you say? Those data is provisional, though,
Mr. Chairman,
inaccurate.
That is exactly my point. The Honorable Gideon Boakon made reference to a particular data point and said that I was inaccurate. I had said this in 2019, and I said it at the time that the government had published accurate data. I said it at the time that the IMF, at the time, and remember, Ghana was in an IMF program, had gone to their board to present to their board their final numbers. Mr. Chairman, I did not lie. I said what I believe was the fact. In fact, subsequent data from the Ministry of Finance has confirmed that I was overly generous, and then the fiscal data was even below what I had announced. I had announced 7.8, and that they had revised it downwards to 6.3. Chairman, I did not cook these numbers. This was given to me by the Ministry of Finance this morning. And so this is what I mean. Data, obviously, is maybe preliminary until finally determined at the end of the year. And that's why I've been careful not to announce any end-year numbers. But that is what it is. And you know, in Parliament, you have to debate. You have to debate certain data, and you debate that appropriately.
Thank you very much. The question well answered. Any more questions? We'll now...
Just to wish the honourable member, my favourite friend, very well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honourable Dr. Gideon Buako, you are not even a member of the committee. So why are you raising your hand? It appears I'm overindulging you. No. Honourable Baah, your turn.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Chairman,
thank you very much.
Chairman, with respect.
Chairman, let me say that you have...
With the greatest respect.
Chairman,
No, don't.
I think
Chairman, I need to come in on this.
But the chairman has recognized me unless he changes his mind.
Honourable Minority Leader, I recognize Honourable Baah.
Chairman, I'm in for a point of order. Chairman, point of order. Chairman, let's deal with this before.
Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman, let's deal with this.
Honourable Afenyomakin,
Chairman, let's deal with this.
Respect the chair.
Let's deal with this before we.
Respect the chair.
Chairman, let's deal with
this. Please respect the chair.
Leader, I have recognized Ama
Chairman,
Baah.
and I have noted
Thereafter,
that.
I can give you the floor.
Chairman.
Honourable Minority Leader.
Chairman.
Honourable Minority Leader, I have recognized Honourable Ama Baah, the Deputy Majority Leader. I will give you the floor thereafter.
Chairman, with the greatest respect.
Chairman, let me go ahead.
Chairman, with the greatest respect.
Honourable Cassiel Ato
Chairman,
Baah,
with the greatest respect to
congratulations.
you. Please, let's deal with this
Very, very proud
so
of you.
that after that.
We entered
You consistently raise your voice
2009.
on my colleagues. Mr. Chairman, you consistently raise your voice on my colleagues. The way you address them, the way you address my colleagues,
respect the chair,
does not go in accord with what we all have agreed on, to extend to each other that utmost respect. This is my fourth time of humbly pleading with you and craving your indulgence. I understand that you may have a high-pitched voice. However, I will plead with you. The way you came across as shouting on him, it happened in Honorable Abina Osei Asare, you did it to Honorable Samia Wuku, and it's happening. I'm only pleading with you that in all humility, please, perhaps you did not intend that. And I'm here. If you feel that any of my colleagues is doing something or there's something that is not acceptable, we can work together. But the way you did it, I'm pleading with you.
Point well made.
Please, Chair.
But, Honourable Leader, with all due respect, I indulge non-members of the committee to ask a question contrary to the practice and the procedure of this particular committee. Therefore, I do not expect any non-member, after exhausting that right, to be craving to ask more questions. I think we should conduct the business in a very orderly manner. So, Honourable Ama Baah, your turn.
Chairman, let me say that the only reason why I yielded to Honourable Afenyomakin is not because he's macho than anybody here, but because I respect this Parliament and I respect the chair.
Honourable Deputy Majority Leader, proceed to ask your question.
I respect the chair.
Proceed to ask your question.
I'm going to ask my question. Let me put it on record that, Chairman, you've been very kind to the minority today. And I've been here for a long time. And, Chairman, this extension of courtesies never happened when we were in the minority under the former chairman of the appointment committee, Honorable Osei Osu. it never happened. And we have to make it clear that you are the only chairman that can allow anybody to speak. Honorable Afenyomark is the ranking member, but you have to give him the right to speak. Anyway, congratulations, Honorable Cassiel Ato Baah. I entered Parliament with you in 2009. I know that we were about 42 on our side, and then the other side also had a number. We were all together about 92. Today, after 16 years, well, we are only 4 left. That speaks volumes about the attrition of Parliament. But I am very, very, very proud of you. So if I say I know you very well, I know you very well. You are a man of complete integrity, and you speak with data and facts. And I am very, very confident that that's exactly what you do. I'm very proud of your performance today, and I think you've calmed the nerves of the people of Ghana and given them the assurance that you are going to really lead, quite frankly, the finance ministry to success. So, my respected leader, I must also congratulate you on behalf of our colleague. You, as minority leader, will be remembered as the leader that in the last 2 years led the minority from 137 to 188 seats. Congratulations. So I'll go straight to my question. Ghana's economy, Honorable, is grappling with serious challenges. I think you've talked a lot about them. There to GDP issues, inflation, and high unemployment. And so my question is, as the Minister of Finance, what will be your top priorities to address these challenges?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, let me also thank His Excellency the President for the honor done me, and my party, the NDC, again, for giving me such an opportunity to serve Ghana in such a high position, in a position of trust. I come to this position very well prepared. I have 16 years experience in public service after some years in the private sector. The Chairman, in politics, you are aware that I've served, one as a Deputy Minister of Finance, and on the side, when my party went to opposition, I was the minority spokesperson for 6 years. During this period, I have carefully studied the trends of Ghana's economy and monitored the behavior of how our economy behaves. I think I'm in a better place to move our country from these uncharted waters to a calm place. I'm determined. I'll do that for God and country. I do not think I have a room to misbehave. I've said so much in opposition. I'm minded by some of the things that I've said, and I cannot say one thing and go and do the other. Whatever it takes, I will be reminded and remember some of the things that I've said. And the criticisms, constructively. And I urge my colleagues also to do the same. I will do whatever it takes to move this economy from the crisis that we are in today to where we have to be. My priority as a minister will be low prices, stable city, and jobs. Low prices in the sense that today inflation is 28.3, food inflation is 27.8, and we know the inflation we see today is anchored, is largely driven with food inflation. What do we do? As minister, I will allocate resources in consultation with cabinet to government policy of agriculture for economic transformation to make food cheaper. And we'll work with the minister responsible for agric to make food cheaper. That in itself will help make food available and protect food security. From the price side, you can't talk about price without inflation. I mean, inflation needs to be tamed. It has been stubborn I've said it earlier. It has, in the last 8 months, you can see that we are still seeing some uptick, even though not too steep. But it has been 23.8. Today, that's the inflation rate. What do we do together to reduce this inflation? Yes, I've said it here and I want to say it again. We will work with the Bank of Ghana to reduce inflation to 8% plus or minus 2 in the shortest possible time. And how do we do this? From the fiscal side, we will front load fiscal consolidation in the shortest possible time so that we can get inflation down. And in doing so, we'll see prices stabilizing. The city needs to be anchored and has to be anchored from the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana. You can't leave the Bank of Ghana alone to anchor the city. The fiscal authorities has a role to play. I'll work with them. I will work and coordinate effectively with the central bank, the monetary authorities, so that together we can anchor the currency. Monetary financing must be eliminated, and we'll work to eliminate it. I'm on record to have spoken against monetary financing. My position has not changed. It's economist, and it still remains economist. And I will do exactly what it is to make sure we anchor the currency. On jobs, I've said it all. I've said it here that my responsibility as a minister responsible for finance is to raise the required revenue and to allocate it in consultation with cabinet to sectors that will create the jobs. And so we will do just that. And I want to repeat that. These are my priorities as a minister, and we'll work to achieve that in the shortest possible time. I want to be remembered as the one who helped to reduce prices and stabilize the currency and create jobs. That is what I ask God to help me to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. Shama, can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. So you talked a lot about the cost of living crisis, food inflation. Obviously, you can only do this with other sectors, other ministries, to address these, what we call the inefficiencies in the agriculture value chain. Can you outline some of the strategies that you do, working with other structures to address these inefficiencies in the agriculture value chain?
Honorable Nominee, your answer, please.
Mr. Chairman, my passion is agric and agribusiness. And that's why I'm sure you've seen questions coming from Coco, left, right, and center. Why is it that food inflation is 27.8? I think it speaks volume. It speaks volume. And what are the staples? Ghana staples. Why are we not taking hard decision to invest in the agriculture sector? I think the time has come for us to pay attention to agriculture sector. I will wait for the nomination of the minister responsible for agriculture and his subsequent approval. I hope to work with the minister concerned, and we will work together to implement the government policy to make food cheaper. We have to mechanize agriculture, we have to improve and enhance productivity, and we have to modernize the agri sector and make it encouraging for young people to enter the sector. And in the process, you cannot ignore agribusiness. As I've said, that's my passion, and I intend to work with the minister responsible for agriculture to ensure food security and cheaper foods.
Honorable Minister, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Any more questions?
No. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I may allow questions from the ranking member, Honorable Deputy Minority Leader, Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Martins. Honorable Deputy Minority Leader. Yes, Deputy Minority Leader. Honorable Deputy Ranking and Minority. Ranking Member and Minority Leader. Leader. Yes, Deputy Minority Leader. Honorable Deputy Ranking and Minority. Ranking Deputy Minority Leader. Honorable Deputy Ranking and Minority, Ranking Member and Minority Leader.
Watch your favorite TV show in your palm. TV on the go. Download the Weasel TV app for Android on Play Store or for iOS on the Apple Store. TV made easier. Weasel TV, we go all out for you.